Today we are going to talk about diet and physical activity for cancer prevention. As I mentioned before, this is based on American Cancer Society guideline for diet and physical activity for cancer prevention 2020. The document is about 10-page length. So I made it very simpler format for this seminar. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in both men and women in the US. The burden of cancer extends beyond mortality. Affected individuals experience physical suffering, distress, and diminished quality of life. After cigarette smoking, that is the leading risk factor for cancer, diet and exercise plays a significant role in the causation of cancer. In fact, diet and exercise is the second leading risk factor for cancer. We are going to talk about different cancer and the effect of weight, physical activity, diet, and alcohol. We are going to check all these four parameters for each and every cancer, how that factors influence the causation of those cancers. For example, in breast cancer, weight gain during adult life or excessive body fatness increases the risk after menopause. And also, in the same token, weight loss may lower the risk. Physical activity, moderate to vigorous physical activity lowers the risk of postmenopausal disease and also lower premenopausal disease. Regular vigorous physical activity lowers the risk for premenopausal disease. So, physical activity definitely lowers the breast cancer risk. The plant foods and low in animal foods and refined carbohydrates lowers the risk of breast cancer. So, non-starchy vegetables, the vegetables rich in carotenoids may lower the risk. Alcohol consumption increases both premenopausal and postmenopausal cancer. Let's look at the colorectal cancer. Excessive body fatness increases the risk. Regular, moderate to vigorous physical activity lower the risk of colon cancer. Reducing the sedentary behavior may lower the risk of colon cancer. Among the diet, the whole grains, high fiber diet, and less added sugar lowers the risk. Consuming non-starchy vegetables and whole fruits probably lowers the risk. Processed meat intake, even in small amounts, and red meat in moderate to high amount increases risk. It's a very important point. Processed meat is linked to the colorectal cancer. Alcohol consumption increases the risk of colorectal cancer. Next is endometrial cancer. Excessive body fatness increases the risk. Weight loss lowers the risk. Regular, moderate to vigorous physical activity lowers the risk. Reducing the sedentary time lowers the risk. Just being active decreases the risk of endometrial cancer. The diet, low glycemic load, avoiding sweets, high sugar, low fiber foods, and sweetened beverages may reduce the risk. Alcohol has not been related to endometrial cancer. Gallbladder cancer, excessive body fatness increase the risk. Adult weight gain further increase the risk of gallbladder cancer. Kidney cancer, especially the renal cell one. Excessive body fatness increases the risk. Regular, moderate to vigorous physical activity lowers the risk. Liver cancer, excess body fatness increases the risk. Regular physical activity lowers the risk. Diet consumption of fish may lower the risk. Alcohol consumption increases the risk of liver cancer. The lung cancer, Weight, diet, and alcohol doesn't have that much of correlation, but physical activity does. Regular, moderate, vigorous physical activity lowers the risk. Reducing sedentary behavior may lower the risk. Ovarian cancer, excessive body fatness may increase the risk. Adult weight gain increases the risk. Physical activity, regular, moderate, vigorous physical activity lowers the risk. Pancreatic cancer, excessive body fatness increases the risk of pancreatic cancer. Adult weight gain further increases the risk. Regular, moderate, vigorous physical activity lowers the risk. Processed red meats, as well as saturated fats in general, increase the risk of pancreatic cancer. Sugar sweetened beverages may increase the risk of pancreatic cancer. It is important. It's the most common cancer in adult men. Excess body fatness increases the risk of advanced breast cancer. Higher consumption of dairy products, especially when the consumption of calcium more than 200 milligrams per day, may increase the risk of prostate cancer. Excess body fatness increases the risk of thyroid. Adult weight gain may increase the risk. Stomach cancer or gastric cancer. Excess body fat increases risk for gastric cardiac cancer. Regular, moderate, vigorous physical activity may lower the risk. Regular intake of processed, grilled, or charcoal meats increase the risk for non-cardiac gastric cancer. Intake of non-starchy vegetables and whole fruits, especially citrus fruits, probably lowers the risk. Alcohol consumption may increase the risk. So stomach cancer is definitely associated with weight gain, sedentary physical activity, and dietary intake and alcohol consumption. Upper aerodigestive cancers, excessive body fatness increases the risk of esophageal adenocarcinoma. Regular, moderate, vigorous physical activity may lower the risk of esophageal adenocarcinoma. Consumption of non-starchy vegetables and whole fruits probably lowers the risk. Alcohol consumption increases the risk of oral cavity, pharynx, larynx cancer, and also squamous cell carcinoma of the esophagus. How does overweight, obesity, and excess body fat contributes to the cancer causation? Keep body weight within healthy range and avoid weight gain in adult weight. It's very important. 10.9% of the cancer cases diagnosed in the United States during 2014 among women, 4.8% of cancer cases among men were attributed to overweight or obesity. Controlling the weight, not having excessive weight gain during adulthood prevents significant proportion of cancer in humans, both adult men and women. 60.3% of uterine cancers, more than 30% of gallbladder, liver, kidney, and renal pelvis cancers and esophageal cancers were attributed to obesity. Excessive body fatness contributes substantially to cancer risk. This is the most important thing one should focus on. The dietary factors most consistently associated with excessive body fat are sugar sweetened beverages, which is very common, has been sold everywhere you go. Second is fast foods, and especially the Western type diet, because it is associated with high in added sugars, meat, fat, whereas the foods containing dietary fibers, especially Mediterranean dietary pattern, may reduce risk. What are the cancers associated with obesity? Breast cancer, endometrial cancer, kidney cancers, especially renal cell carcinoma, esophageal cancers, especially adenocarcinoma, colon, and rectum. These are all associated with obesity. In 2016, there are other cancers have been associated with excessive weight gain or obesity: gastric cancer, liver cancer, gallbladder cancer, pancreas, ovarian, thyroid, as well as multiple myeloma and meningioma. So, excessive body weight, obesity, very important factors in the causation of cancer. Regarding physical activity, the recommendation by ACS, which is American Cancer Society, is be physically active. Physically active lower the risk of specific type of cancer because of its effects on insulin glucose metabolism, immune function, inflammation, sex hormones, oxidative stress, genomic instability, and myokines. The cancers associated with the physical inactivity are colon, breast, and endometrial cancer. It also increases premature mortality because of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. So, what are the physical activity recommendations by ACS? In adults, the recommendation is 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity per week, meaning 30 minutes for 5 days or 1 hour for 5 days, or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity. Achieving or exceeding the upper limit of 300 minutes is optimal. So, more the exercise is better to prevent cancer. For children and adolescents, they should engage in at least 1 hour of moderate or vigorous intensity physical activity each day. Limit sedentary behavior such as sitting, lying down, and watching television and other forms of screen based entertainment. Diet and dietary patterns. Follow a healthy eating pattern at all ages. What is healthy eating pattern means? Food that are high in nutrients in amounts that help achieve and maintain healthy body weight. So they are against eating excessively and having a variety of vegetables like dark green, red and orange, fiber rich legumes such as beans and peas and others. Fruits, especially whole fruits with variety of colors, whole grains. If you have all these components, it is considered as healthy eating pattern. What are the things to avoid or limit? In my opinion, avoid red and processed meats, sugar and sweetened beverages, highly processed foods, and refined grain products. So it is better to avoid all these three in order to prevent cancer. 4.2 to 5.2% of cancer cases per year directly related to poor diet. Cancer happens irrespective of the body weight if you eat poor diet. Very important point. The plant-based diets are associated with lower levels of inflammation, improved insulin response, and less oxidative DNA damage. The plant-based diets are also associated with higher concentration of beneficial gut bacteria. Other important components is vegetables and fruit. It protects against several aerodigestive cancers, meaning cancers of mouth, pharynx, larynx, nasopharynx, esophagus, lung, stomach, and colorectal cancers. For cancer reduction, recommends consuming at least 2.5 to 3 cups of vegetables, 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit each day, depending on energy requirements. Legumes are good alternative to red and processed meats. If you're already consuming red and processed meats, please switch over to legumes. The legumes include kidney beans, pinto beans, black beans, white beans, garbanzo beans, meaning chickpeas, lima beans, mature and dried, lentils, edamame, meaning green soybeans, and other soy foods. Other important components, whole grains. Each 30 gram per day consumption of whole grains was estimated to lower the risk of colorectal cancer by 5%. So, very strong linkage between colorectal cancer reduction by eating whole grains. Grains are rich in phytochemicals and dietary fiber. They modify fatty acid production, lowers the level of pro-inflammatory bacterial species, accelerates gut transit time, thus reducing duration of exposure of the gut to carcinogens. Whole grains reduce weight gain, thus overweight and obesity. As you all know now, overweight and obesity are related to lots of cancers. Next is the dietary fiber. Dietary fiber found in plant foods, including legumes, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, and nuts and seeds. They all probably reduce the risk of colorectal cancer. It lowers the weight gain, overweight, and obesity. ACS recommendation, ACS means American Cancer Society recommendation, is to obtain most dietary fiber from whole plant foods such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Let me elaborate on it. ACS does not recommend getting dietary fiber supplement that is available commercially that has not been shown to improve or reduce cancer uh, cancer incidence. So if you get the dietary fiber by consuming vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, definitely lowers colorectal cancer, but not by dietary fiber supplements. Red and processed meats, they increases cancer risk. Health organizations recommend limiting or avoiding consumption of these foods. What are red meats? Red meats are beef, veal, pork, lamb, mutton, horse, or goat, including minced or frozen meat. Processed meat stands out through curing, smoking, salting, fermentation, and other processes to improve preservation or enhance flavor, such as bacon, sausage, ham, bologna, hot dogs, and deli meats. ACS recommends if you're already consuming red and processed meats, switch over to fish, poultry, and beans. They have been shown to not to cause cancers. Next important component is added sugars. White sugar, that means processed sugar, raw and brown sugar, corn sweetener, high fructose corn syrup, and other added sugars are associated with risk of weight gain, overweight, obesity, which itself is considered a cause of 13 types of cancer, and also it is expanding further. Diets with high glycemic load are probably associated with high endometrial cancer risk. So the recommendation is limit sugar sweetened beverages. In my opinion, stop consuming sugar sweetened beverages. Should be a high priority and recommend instead choosing water and unsweetened beverages. Other commonly consumed food is processed foods. Highly processed foods tend to be higher in fat, added sugars, refined grains, and are sodium and have been associated with adverse health outcomes, including cancer. 2018 WCRF and AACR report recommends limiting the consumption of fast foods and other processed foods high in saturated fat, starches, or added sugars because of their association with the body weight. So it's better to avoid consuming processed foods. because there are no advantages to it. Diets high in calcium and dairy products lower colorectal cancer and breast cancer risk. Just watch very carefully. But increases of prostate cancer risk, even though they lower colorectal and breast cancer, it increases cancer risk. The long-term diet that includes higher doses of calcium, more than 2000 milligram calcium, associated with greater risk of prostate cancer, including lethal advanced high-grade cancers. So very important, especially those who are taking calcium supplements tend to take higher amount of calcium. So if you get calcium via regular food items, you cannot exceed 2000 milligram because normal recommended calcium intake is 1000 to 1200 milligram per day. If you excessively consume, it is associated with increased risk of prostate cancer, and more importantly, those cancers are lethal advanced high-grade cancers. Vitamin D reduces the risk of cancer. Dietary sources for vitamin D are fatty fish, some mushrooms, fortified foods, and supplements. American Cancer Society does not recommend the use of dietary supplements for cancer prevention, consistent with other organizations. So dietary supplements is not the way to reduce the cancer risk. Next important area is alcohol consumption. The recommendation is best not to drink alcohol. People who do choose to drink alcohol should limit their consumption to no more than 1 drink per day if you are a female, 2 drinks per day for men. Alcohol consumption is the third major modifiable cancer risk factor after tobacco use and excessive body weight. It is related to 7 types of cancer, just alcohol consumption. Most of them related to upper aerodigestive tract, like oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, squamous cell carcinoma of esophagus, and liver. Global burden of disease study found that consuming 0 drinks daily minimizes the overall risk to health. The ACS recommendation is no alcohol. And the ACS also come up with recommendation for community action to reduce the cancer risk. Public, private, and community organizations should work collaboratively at national, state, and local levels to develop and advocate for and implement policy and environmental changes that increase access to affordable nutritional foods. It should be available for the people consumption that should be affordable to the public. Second, it should provide safe, enjoyable, and accessible opportunity for physical activity and limit access to alcoholic beverages for all individuals. So there should be a statutory regulations to improve the availability of nutritious foods in affordable manner and also provide walking spaces, trails. Those are all safe and enjoyable, and reducing the availability of alcoholic beverages. Call for policy and systems change. It's very important if you want to have an impact in a massive way. Identification of key environments to promote changes. That changes from locality to locality. Some areas needs a tremendous change. Some areas needs mild tweaking. Need for multiple sectors to work collaboratively to reduce barriers to healthy eating and active living, particularly among lower income and racial and ethnic minority and rural communities. Encouraging the purchase of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and other nutritious items rather than energy-dense foods and beverages of low nutritional value. A store can also apply to become an approved vendor for federal nutrition assistance programs funded and administered through United States Department of Agriculture. So this is for United States. This is very important. Food away from home. It's become fashionable to eat outside. Consuming food away from home, from restaurants, cafeterias, food trucks, and vending machines typically results in the consumption of fewer fruits and vegetables and more calories, saturated fat, added sugars, and sodium than eating foods prepared at home. So, very important. When you eat outside, invariably, you tend to eat higher calories, higher fat, especially saturated fat, and higher added sugars and higher sodium. The food consumption away from home has been associated with obesity. Second is built environment, how the society has been built around. The community architecture and design affect physical activity levels among community members. When you design a city or suburb or a local community, you should address all those factors, what we mentioned earlier. Transportation system interventions that are designed to increase street connectivity, sidewalk, bicycling, trail infrastructure, and public transit structure and access. All needs to be kept in mind so that you can improve the community health. And shared use agreements. For example, shared use occurs when government entities or other organizations agree to open their facility for use by broader community, like community-based school facilities. Most of the schools here in the United States have all the facilities for walking, playing, and those are all very safe. Public infrastructure investments, very important. That improves the health of the individuals, health of community, thus health of nation. More than 60 minutes per day physical activity recommended for children and youth. Physical examination, sorry, physical education program for all children from kindergarten to 12th grade needs to be implemented in physical education and physical activity in schools. Frequent classroom activity breaks, daily recess, intramural programs and activity clubs, walk to school or bike to school programs, and after school programs incorporating physical activity. That should be implemented early on so that when the children grow up, that will become part of their life. Decreasing access to alcoholic beverages. Regulating the density of alcohol retail outlets through licensing or zoning processes, prohibiting sales to minors, increasing compliance checks at school retailers, increasing compliance checks at alcohol retailers such as bars, restaurants, and liquor stores, restricting or prohibiting promotions of alcoholic beverages in connection with sponsorship and activities that target youth. Since alcohol is related to lots of cancers and other bad health outcomes, that needs to be barred or severely limited. What are the common question and answers? Number one is acrylamide. What is acrylamide and is it associated with an increased risk of cancer? Acrylamide is a chemical used in industrial processing and it is found in food and tobacco smoke. The major sources for acrylamide are French fries and potato chips, crackers, breads and cookies, breakfast cereals, canned black olives, prune juice, and coffee. Acrylamide is classified by IARC as a probable carcinogen based primarily on experiments in animals. Large number of epidemiology studies in humans have found no strong evidence that dietary acrylamide exposure is associated with risk of any type of cancer. Second is alcoholic beverages. Is there a safe level of consumption? Do some type of alcohol present less risk. That means alcohol consumption causes several types of cancer, and that to reduce the risk of developing several types of cancer, there is no safe level of consumption. More alcohol a person drinks, higher the risk of developing an alcohol associated cancer. All alcohol, regardless of type, whether it's beer, wine, or liquor, contains ethanol, which is the cancer causing compound in alcoholic beverages. No type of alcohol beverage is less risky in terms of its impact on cancer risk. Antioxidants. What are antioxidants and what do they have to do with cancer? Antioxidants obtained from the diet are vitamin C, vitamin E, carotenoids, and many other bioactive food components. Because oxidative damage is associated with cancer risk, some antioxidants are thought to protect against cancer. However, this does not mean that benefits of vegetables and fruits result primarily from their antioxidant content rather than from other bioactive food components. To reduce cancer risk, the best advice is to consume antioxidants through whole food sources rather than supplements. It's a very important point to remember. The supplements have not shown to decrease the incidence of cancer, but the whole foods does. Arsenic. What is arsenic? Does it cause cancer? WHO, US National Toxicology Program, and others have classified arsenic as carcinogenic to humans. Arsenic is found in two forms, inorganic and organic. Inorganic arsenic is carcinogenic and is found in seafood, rice, and other rice products, mushrooms, and poultry. Natural arsenic levels tend to be higher in drinking water that comes from the ground sources such as wells. Arsenic may cause lung, bladder, and skin cancers. Those who live in areas with high levels of arsenic in water may consider using alternative sources of drinking water such as bottled water. Household filters do not effectively remove arsenic. Reduce consumption of seafood, rice products, and fruit juice because they have higher level of arsenic, especially those from those areas where the arsenics are high. Maintaining good folate status is important for the elimination of arsenic in the body. Next is coffee. Does drinking coffee impact cancer risk? Coffee consumption reduces the risk of liver and endometrial cancers. It also reduces the risk of cancers of mouth, larynx, as well as basal cell skin cancer in both men and women, and possibly malignant melanoma in women. Very hot beverages above 149°F, such as coffee and tea, may increase the risk of esophageal cancer. So drink coffee, but it should not be too hot. Caffeine, flavonoids, lignans, and other polyphenols are found in roasted coffee. Coffee also influences intestinal transit time and liver metabolism of carcinogens. These factors may contribute to a lower risk of some digestive cancers. Next is genetically modified crops. What are genetically modified crops and are they safe? WHO, World Health Organization, AMA, American Medical Association, NAS, National Academy of Sciences, and the American Association for the Advancement of Science have all taken the stance that current evidence suggests that food containing genetically engineered ingredients are safe. At this point, genetically modified crops or genetically modified whole grains are safe. GM crops are made by adding genes from other plants or organisms to increase the plant's resistance to insect pests, retard spoilage, or improve transportability, flavor, nutrient composition, or other desired qualities. Next issue is gluten-free diet. Does eating a gluten-free diet help to reduce cancer risk? Gluten is a protein in wheat, rye, and barley that for most people cause no ill effects. For those who have celiac disease, the gluten triggers an immune response that damages the lining of the small intestine and could increase the risk of cancer. For those individuals without celiac disease, there is no evidence that consuming gluten-free diet is associated with lower risk. On the contrary, numerous studies suggest that consuming whole grains, including those containing gluten, probably reduces the risk of colon cancer. So gluten-free diet exclusively for those with celiac disease. If you do not have a celiac disease, the recommendation is to take whole grains. Next is glycemic index and glycemic load. What are these and do they impact cancer risk? Foods with high glycemic index release glucose quickly and show a rapid rise in blood glucose. Foods with low glycemic index release glucose into the blood more slowly with lower overall peak in blood glucose over time. In general, foods with high glycemic index are highly refined, processed grain products with added sugars and low fiber content, as well as some starchy vegetables. Dietary patterns high in glycemic load is associated with high risk of endometrial cancer. So consuming added sugar is not good. In fact, it increases the risk of cancer. Do anti-inflammatory diets reduce cancer risk? Role of inflammation in carcinogenesis was recognized more recently, and the relationship of diet, inflammation, the risk of cancer are all still in evolving area of research. Based on the above information, the current guideline advises high intake of vegetables and fruit and the low intake of red and processed meat is important to have anti-inflammatory effects on your diet. Other important thing is irradiated foods. Why are foods irradiated and can these foods increase cancer risk? Food irradiation improves the safety and extends the shelf life of foods by reducing or eliminating microorganisms and insects. Irradiation does not make foods radioactive. Very important point to remember. Compromise nutritional qualities does not, or noticeably change the taste, texture, or appearance of food. Irradiation does not cause any of those. The US FDA has evaluated the safety of irradiated food for more than 30 years and has found the process to be safe. There is currently no evidence that irradiation of food causes cancer or has harmful human health effects. Juicing, cleanses, and detox. Can periods of limiting food intake to juices remove toxins and provide protection against cancer? Because the lots of commercially available program how to cleanse your gut, how to detox yourself, so on and so forth. Fruit and vegetable juices contain less fiber, lower levels of some other beneficial nutrients, and more naturally occurring sugar than the whole fruits and vegetables. They are not the best way to obtain nutrients from plant-based foods. Very important to remember. There is no scientific evidence to support claims that exclusively consuming juice for more than one day reduces cancer risk or provide any health benefit. Juice cleanses or juice detoxification, the diet is not supported by any scientific evidence. So please do not waste money on them. In fact, they may be harmful. Next is microwaving food and general food preparation and storage. Can causing microwave ovens or other can using microwave ovens or other cooking materials or methods increase cancer risk. Microwaves are a form of non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation, and their use in cooking does not increase cancer risk. Conversely, grilling, smoking, pan frying meats, including red meats as well as poultry and fish, at high temperature can cause chemical reactions of amino acids, sugars, and creatinine to form carcinogenic chemicals. Storage containers or cookware, like plastic containers or Teflon coated cookware, can or probably can cause associated with cancer. The solution is concerned people can choose glass or metal storage containers and cookware. Non-nutritive sweeteners and sugar substitutes. Sugar substitutes. Do non-nutritive sweeteners or sugar substitutes cause cancer? Non-nutritive sweeteners approved by US FDA such as aspartame, acesulfame, potassium, saccharin, sucralose, and stevia. There is no clear evidence that these sweeteners at the levels typically consumed in human diet cause cancer. People with PKU, which is phenylketonuria, metabolize aspartame abnormally, resulting in nervous system toxicity, except that group non-nutritive sweeteners, sugar substitutes may not cause cancer, but does it associate with other adverse health outcomes? Probably so. I would avoid them. Organic foods. Are foods labeled organic more effective in lowering cancer risk? Many consumers believe that consumption of organic foods may provide health benefits, but there is little evidence that organic produce have higher nutrient levels than conventionally grown produce. Washing all produce to minimize the risk of ill health effects from microbial contaminations is must. Meeting the recommendation for vegetable and fruit intake is high priority for cancer prevention and overall health plan choosing organic produce. So the recommendation is organic foods doesn't give excessive nutritional value and also reduce cancer risk than conventionally produce. And also they are very expensive, non-affordable. Pesticides. Do pesticides in food cause cancer? IARC classified 3 common agricultural herbicides: glyphosate, malathion, and diazinon. They are probable human carcinogens. All 3 are associated with a high risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Malathion and diazinon are associated with excess risk of prostate and lung cancers, respectively. Scientific evidence supports the overall health benefits and cancer protective effects of eating vegetables and fruits, regardless of whether they are grown using organic or conventional practices. Consuming vegetables and fruits are good. Washing conventionally grown produce can remove some of the pesticide residues and minimize the risk of microbial contaminants. Current recommendation is wash the produce and eat. Sleep. How does sleep impact diet, physical activity, and cancerous risk? Disordered sleep has been associated with higher cancer risk. Sleep deprivation, meaning less than 7 hours per night, has been associated with higher risk for obesity, overeating, and related metabolic syndrome, known risk factor for several cancers. Healthy sleep pattern has been associated with better weight maintenance after weight loss. High levels of sedentary time associated with poor sleep quality and shorter sleep duration. Inadequate sleep causes elevated stress hormones and inflammation, the known mechanism driving cancer risk further. Soy and soy products. Can soy-based foods reduce cancer risk? There is some evidence from epidemiologic and lab studies that consumption of traditional soy foods such as tofu may decrease the risk of cancers of the breast and prostate. Although soy from food sources appears to be safe, may even have a multiple beneficial health effects. Soy supplements should be used with caution if at all. So, any kind of supplements does not have a favorable health outcome so far now. Sugar. Does sugar increases cancer risk? All sugars in foods and beverages contribute to caloric intake. So, by promoting obesity, high sugar intake can indirectly increases cancer risk. All the sugars have a similar effect, whether it is brown sugar, white sugar, fructose, and even honey. Nonetheless, limiting highly processed foods containing high levels of added sugar, such as cakes, candy, cookies, sweetened cereals, as well as sugar sweetened beverages such as soda, sports drinks, and energy drinks can help to reduce caloric intake, minimize weight gain, promote healthier body weight, as well as lower insulin secretions in individuals with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Very important is sweetened beverages, added sugars should be avoided. Vegetarian and vegan diets. Do vegetarian diets reduce cancer risk? Vegetarian diets are low in saturated fat and high in fiber, vitamins, and other bioactive components and do not include red and processed meats. Many studies of vegetarians indicate lower risk of cancer overall relative to people who also eat meat. There is a large British study, people who ate meat, who ate fish, but not other meats, appear to have the same overall cancer risk as vegetarians. So fish along with vegetarian diet have the same risk as pure vegetarians. In addition to modest level of risk reduction for some forms of cancer, vegetarian diet lowers the cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes and very affordable. Vegetarians need to take supplements such as vitamin B12, zinc, iron, and calcium. So those are all the fallouts of vegetarian diet. Finally, there are some recommendations for individuals. This is by 2020 American Cancer Society guidelines. Achieve and maintain healthy body weight throughout life. Keep body weight within healthy range and avoid weight gain in adult life. Be physically active. What does that mean? Adults should engage in 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity per week, or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity, or an equivalent combination. Achieving or exceeding upper limit of 300 minutes is optimal. Children and adolescents should engage in at least 1 hour of moderate to vigorous intensity activity each day. Limit sedentary behavior such as sitting, lying down, and watching television and other forms of screen-based entertainment. Follow a healthy eating pattern at all ages. What is healthy eating pattern? Foods that are high in nutrients in amounts that help achieve and maintain healthy body weight. Variety of vegetables: dark green, red, orange, fiber-rich legumes such as beans and peas and others. Fruits, especially whole fruits with variety of colors, and whole grains. Healthy eating pattern limits or does not include red and processed meats have been associated with lots of cancers. Sugar sweetened beverages associated with lots of cancers. Highly processed foods and refined grain products, again, needs to be avoided. It is best not to drink alcohol at all. People who do choose to drink alcohol should limit their consumption no more than 1 drink per day by women, 2 drinks for men. And they recommend community action. Public, private, and community organizations should work collaboratively at national, state, and local levels to develop, advocate for, and implement policy and environmental changes that increase access to affordable, nutritious foods, provide safe, enjoyable, and accessible opportunities for physical activity and limit alcohol for all individuals. This concludes the talk on diet and physical activity for the prevention of cancer.